Hey, welcome back to Common Sense OT Security. Before we jump into today's topic, I would like to remind you that we do maintain this YouTube channel where you can find all those recorded sessions from the webcast in addition to any other videos that we did, and that is quite a lot. So there is a playlist about the OTbase asset management system, some shorter videos that highlight individual topics, then a playlist on Power BI, certainly one on Stuxnet, and additional stuff like OT security background knowledge, OT security strategy. I promise you will like many of those videos. So if you haven't done so before, just check out that YouTube channel just by typing in OTbase, and you will find us on YouTube. So today we're going to talk about some highlights of the recent release for OTbase Inventory, which is 9.1. It was released just a week ago, and I just want to give you an idea what the development looks like here at OTbase. This webcast will probably be most interesting for people not familiar with OTbase, because if you're using the product, if you're a customer, you have seen it all already, you have hopefully used it already, you're happy about all that awesome new stuff. And so for those who aren't customers yet, let's just focus on a couple of highlights. So many highlights, many new features have to do with the vulnerability management, which becomes a bigger and bigger topic within OTbase. So many customers are using it specifically for that purpose. And I want to point out a couple of innovations in that space. So if you look at this table, this is the CVE table, one of the various tables for OT vulnerability management. And this table lists one CVE per row, and then you will see the most important properties of that CVE in those various columns. And you can always dive deeper just by doing a double click, which is going to open the vulnerability profile, as it's called in OTbase. And one thing that is new is that we are breaking down the various components of that CVSS vector. So in previous versions, you only had the vector, which we have learned doesn't make sense to most users. So therefore, we have just broken it down into its various components to make it easier readable. So just to increase the usability. And the other thing that you can see here, what we have done is we highlight specific parts of the vector that are problematic, such as in this example, the attack vector is network, and that means that this particular vulnerability, which affects Rockwell control systems, just saying, that can be exploited via the network. And the origin of the attack doesn't even have to be on the same subnet, so it can be routed. The attack complexity is low. There are no privileges required and no user interaction. So all these fields come with very bad information, and this is why we highlight it in orange. The next innovation that you see here is we include a CVE summary. And that CVE summary is generated using the artificial intelligence. And this is something that you're going to see now for pretty much every single CVE, where we have a process that's running in our networks and in our research labs, where we generate those summaries for all the CVEs that we know affect our customers. Okay, and the focus of these summaries is to just to sum up all the additional information that you can usually find in those links. Okay, so as you know, there might be a couple more links, and what you're going to do here is we're going to save you time, because the analyst doesn't have to click on all these links, maybe just to find out that some are outdated hopelessly. So it saves you a lot of clicking and additional reading. Everything is summarized here in this CVE summary. Okay, and this is an ongoing process, so this will be updated every so often to reflect any new findings, etc., any additional intelligence that have been made available. So this is part of the metadata update for OTbase installations, where we automatically update all that metadata stuff once per week. So that is another new feature. Then the next thing here is something that is also totally cool in that very same department, the AI context. And you would probably expect, well, isn't that redundant? Isn't that pretty much the same? Well, that depends. Okay. So whereas this part here, the summary, that is pre-generated and pretty much static, at least until it is updated by us. The AI context is on demand. Okay, so you see you have this refresh button here, and this is something that is not pre-populated. So you can ask OTbase, well, now just give me the latest and greatest about this particular vulnerability. And here's what is going to happen then. So then OTbase will reach out to your AI platform of choice, which may be XAI or OpenAI, and it will collect the latest and greatest intel on that particular vulnerability. And then you're going to get something that looks like this. So it might be a little bit more verbose. And this is only because for this query that we send out, we don't limit the scope. Whereas for the summaries that are pre-populated, we tell the AI, well, you only use official documents. Whereas this AI query can crawl the whole internet. And sometimes that is a good thing, other times that's a bad thing, because what our experience is that sometimes the AI just starts to hallucinate. If it doesn't find anything of value, it just makes shit up. Right? And also, it's also a very interesting exercise, if only for the reason that it's going to give you quite a good idea of the AI capabilities as of now. So I would say, well, it makes you think twice about using AI for control purposes. That is what I have learned. But anyhow, so in many cases, it will yield some additional good information. And the purpose of this is, once more, to save you time. If you are the analyst or the poor fellow who is supposed to deal with the information, oh my God, now there's the CVE and we have 232 devices that are affected by the CVE, and they are placed here and there, then certainly you want to understand what the CVE is all about. And this summary and the AI context is going to help you with that. And so we are pretty confident that it will save you a lot of time, especially if your use case is heavily focusing on vulnerability management. Okay, so the next thing that, before we go on, let me just quickly show you, let's just say I randomly pick some CVE here for the AI context. When you haven't used it yet, it's going to look like this, okay? So it's empty, and it's just going to say load, okay? So you have a button there, and then when you click that button, that request to your AI platform goes out live, okay? And then it assembles all the information, packs it together, and then you're going to see the result in that CVE profile. And the good thing is, if you have done that once, OTbase will simply store this information. And certainly after a while, let's just say in a month or so, you might say, well, probably there is some new data on this, and then you could click on refresh. Okay, but just to give you an idea how that works, you have seen, well, it is actually pretty fast. Might take a minute or so, but then you have the latest and greatest, and it's going to stay in that vulnerability profile. The next thing that is new is that we now include the option to calculate your CVE priority automatically. What does that mean? So in OTbase for years, we have carried this priority field for CVEs as an alternative to severity. I think everybody will probably know what the severity means. This is just some pre-computed assessment by NIST or by MITRE that expresses the badness of the vulnerability of the CVE. And we used to just use that as a default for the priority. You could change the priority to reflect your different assessments. So it does happen actually quite frequently that an analyst says, well, you know, NIST believes this is a critical CVE, but according to our wisdom, we think it's not. It might just be medium or high, okay? And then you can change that field manually. And what you would do is you're going to rely on your priority assessment when it comes to the vulnerability management, rather than on what NIST or MITRE thinks about this vulnerability, if only for the reason that, as we all know, when it comes to OT, those assessments and all those metrics don't work really that well as they may or may not do in IT. So therefore, a different assessment might be called for. And in this version, we are now giving you the option to let OTbase calculate the priority or reassess the priority based on a couple of different factors. So just to give you an idea, if there is a known exploit for that CVE, it will automatically be critical, no matter what else is going on. The criticality or priority will be elevated if there is a low attack complexity, or if that vulnerability is network exploitable. Just to give you an idea. And then when you activate this feature, you will see lots of differences when you compare those two values here so comparing priority against severity. So lots of differences here. Like in this one, priority is critical, severity is medium. That is going to happen automatically behind the scenes, so you no longer have to manually go through all those several hundred or thousand CVEs and apply your own assessment. If you don't like it, you can turn it off. So that's a matter of preference. If you want to stick with your individual assessments, you can certainly do that by leaving the previous logic unchanged, which simply copies the severity as a default to the priority. Okay, what else have we got? In this column here, the number of affected devices, we have now also thrown in a graph that gives you a quick idea of those CVEs that affect a lot of devices. Why do we believe that is helpful? Well, because let's just say if you only look at those priority, severity, CVSS base scores, you can easily miss the big picture, because certainly it's much different if you look at a CVE that only affects 5 devices as opposed to 300 devices, right? So your problem will be much bigger in respect to the number of affected devices. If it only affects 5 devices, you are confident, oh, I can be done with that with my vulnerability management before lunch. If it affects 300, that will not be the case. And this number here, so the numerical call out was always there, but we thought it will help users to spot those differences, right? So you will simply see right away by the length of that bar how big your problem might be, right? As opposed to when that bar is rather short, and I'll probably leave that for later. Next, innovation in that vulnerability management workspace. So this is the software table that we believe is absolutely awesome when you want to go for performance-based vulnerability management as opposed to risk-based, where you try to single out those vulnerabilities that may or may not include the high cost of consequence. In performance-based vulnerability management, you take a different approach. You just want to reduce your attack surface as much as quickly as possible. You want to see significant reductions in your attack surface. And this certainly is backed by the deeper wisdom, if you will, that maybe when I go that risk-based approach, maybe my calculations are just off, right? So I might overlook some very high risk vulnerabilities. I might focus on the wrong thing, though I did my risk analysis. And you don't have that problem in performance-based vulnerability management, because the only thing that matters, or what matters most, is how much of your attack surface you reduce, and that you can really express it in numbers. And towards that goal, this table here is very, very helpful, because it ranks the software applications and the firmware versions in respect to how much they contribute to your attack surface. Because, let's not fool ourselves. Your attack surface is mostly created by vulnerable software products. Some of these software products, they drag hundreds of vulnerabilities, some of them with base scores of 10. Some of these softwares are installed on hundreds of devices, others are not. And all of this can be expressed in this table here, and is expressed in that table. And this comes with the ranking. But certainly, as usual, all those numbers and that ranking, it doesn't really relate with, or it doesn't draw a picture. So now we are drawing a picture, okay? In order to do that, we just click on diagram. And this functionality was in OTbase already for quite a while, but it was only showing a tree map. And now you can toggle this diagram to show a Pareto chart, which is now the default type of display, okay? And certainly this Pareto chart tells a very striking story, in my opinion, because we have this cutoff line here, okay? And as you would expect in a Pareto chart, the cutoff line tells you where those items to the left account for 80% of your y-axis topic, which in our case is the v-score, or this is another expression for your attack surface, okay? And that means that if you would remediate the issues with those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 products, you will have eliminated 80% of your attack surface. Hopefully something that makes you think. The other aspect that you see here, and again, that you even see that on the table view, the items in gray, color-coded in gray, those are operating systems and firmware versions where you will most definitely need downtime to update those. The items in blue is application software, like, oh, guess what, Google Chrome we have here. And Google Chrome usually doesn't require downtime in order to get updated, okay? And I would see here right away, my Google Chrome, with all its outdated versions, accounts for 11% of the attack surface. So if I would only update or uninstall my Google Chrome, then I would get rid of 11% of my attack surface. And so if you wanted to, you can also filter this. So you could say, and I'm just interested in, let's just say, applications, okay? And then all the operating systems and the firmware versions are eliminated, and then you would see, oh, you know, it did do it. It's Google Chrome and Microsoft Office. That is going to give me a real bang for the buck if I just update those. So just to give you an idea, so we think it's super, super helpful, this new chart type that in seconds paints a very striking picture of your attack surface and about the best opportunities to reduce the attack surface so that it really makes a difference. The next item that I want to show you is when we go to inventory, to the device inventory in OTbase. So here I have selected the products list, the products view, where you see all the installed products in our sample database. And here we also have thrown in some AI. So I'm just using the 7056 EN2T because I'm confident that many of you are using this product. And again, I'm drilling down to get more information. And in here, we also now have this AI context that you have also seen already with the CVEs, okay? And we believe it's also super helpful because the AI context, we have taught it to expose known problems, okay? Connectivity issues, hardware failures, solutions and fixes, replacement parts, additional resources with their so linked directly. So we think also a very cool addition because it will make you aware of issues with a particular product that are not necessarily related to security vulnerabilities. We have done the same thing for software products. So I've switched over to software, to the software inventory. Same thing, you get this AI context, and the AI context will tell you about any known issues and solutions and workarounds. Let's quickly see what else I want to show you. Oh yeah, the OT system relation extensions. So very, very cool stuff. In OTbase, so when you look at the inventory, this is still the inventory piece. And what you see here in the left sidebar is different views on one and the same inventory. One view would be the geolocations, right, where you can build out your location trees. But the systems view, that is, you could also call it ISA 95. So that allows you to model your functional hierarchies on about how all those OT devices, how they build a system. Because if you only look at those devices in an atomic manner, so you only look at the individual devices with their IP addresses, etc., you miss the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is super, super important, particularly when it comes to understanding criticality. And so this is what you can do here in OTbase. You can build out your ISA 95 functional hierarchy. And that usually starts with the site. And then from there you can do all those. You can document the subsystems, etc., down to the work cell. And the cool part is that you can then also express or model the relationships, the dependencies between those systems and subsystems. And this will give you something like that. So this is not drawn manually. This will be drawn automatically by OTbase, and then it's fully interactive, so you can move things around as you like. And all those attributes for the dependencies, for the relationships, can be configured. So this is not something that would be preset in OTbase. For example, here in this case, we are using a thick green line for material flow. You can use whatever you want. You can use a thin red dotted line. So that is user configurable. But maybe you would wonder, well, drawing all those dependencies, isn't that quite time consuming? And I would say, well, it was until now, because we have thrown in this edit mode. So there's this new button up here. And if you click that button, you can draw your relationships with the mouse. So let's just say I want to document that this SCADA system here also controls that mixer tool. Okay, then the only thing I need to do is to, with drag and drop, just draw that connection. When I'm done with that, I can also specify additional details. So I can assign a relationship groups, which in this case would be process control. And again, this is user configurable. You can use whatever group you want. And you can express a criticality. So let's just say, well, it's high criticality because if the process control doesn't work, then I will face an outage. You can enter a description if you want to. You don't do that at this point. And then bang, there is your new relationship. Okay, so just done in a couple of seconds, and that is going to be persistent. So when you just close everything and then bring it up again, it will show up. You can also edit those relationships just by have to go into edit mode first, certainly, just by doing a double click. So if you want to make any changes, just like that. If you want to filter, well, you could say only show me those critical relationships, just like so, and then everything else disappears. So super, super helpful for your criticality analysis, which is usually not an intuitive thing. And the benefit certainly here is when you were thinking, I get the point, but this is so time consuming. Well, it's no longer anymore. Okay, because you can draw your relations in a couple of seconds. So I believe very cool stuff, and you will love it. You will definitely love it. The other thing, let's just see, that I want to show is REST API. No, we are not going to talk about that. Let's go to the software, to the software inventory. Okay, and in the software inventory, we now also offer this normalized view. So in the default expression here, you will see every single software version being called out. When you click on normalized view, that changes, and the individual versions are lumped together. And then once that you open a product profile just by clicking on any of those entries, then you're going to see the distribution of those versions exposed down here under versions, so pretty easy. And you would see right away that most of your installations are on version 2.6 for that factory talk diagnostics product. So another cool, helpful feature. And basically, that's it, what I wanted to show you. Hope you enjoyed the show. And with that, I'm going to see you next week, same place, same time.